Arthur Dong. He's a professor of economics at Georgetown University's McDonough School of Business. $200 billion, a big number. It seems like things just keep escalating. Of course, these accusations, China saying you're not playing by the rules of the WTO, U.S. saying China's not playing by the rules of the WTO. Where do you see things as we sit here tonight?
Well, at this point, this latest round of tariffs imposed by President Trump comes certainly as a surprise, not only to China, as a surprise to the world. It signals a significant escalation of this trade war moving forward. China, at this point, has to sort of think through its responses, but a part of that response will most certainly be a petition at the WTO for trade action against or trade violation, citing the United States for a violation of WTO governing rules.
Talk to me about that. It's a long process, isn't it? I mean, this is a bureaucratic institution. That's not something that they're going to have a decision tomorrow. I mean,
absolutely. It's a long process, and the irony is this is an institution that the United States had a very deep hand in creating. Now, they'll go through the process. Both sides will line up their arguments, but this is not something that's going to, in a sense, provide injunctive relief to China.
What's in China's toolkit? I mean, how can they respond?
China, I think, at this point is going to look at an array of responses. Over the past few days, they've signaled that they're going to go toe-to-toe and sort of ratchet up their tariffs on reciprocal American-made products. But also, it would not be surprising to me to see non-tariff barriers now start to go into play, including whether it's the restriction of licensing on the part of American companies, or maybe other sort of barriers that are non-tariff in nature. Slow down at the Customs Bureau, having shipments of goods slow down and sit in harbor, and most certainly, China has not even talked about the trade surplus and services that the United States is running with China, meaning a whole variety of services, be it lawyers, be it accountancy, be it technical services and advisory, be it tourism, or most certainly the very large number of Chinese students who are studying at American universities here in the United States.
What you're saying, basically, when you boil it down, is both sides can do enormous harm to one another, right? And the more you ratchet this up, the more you'll see that. So from a consumer standpoint, we're going to feel the effects. From a business standpoint, businesses are going to feel the effects. How soon?
Well, we're going to start to see the tariffs have already been imposed starting last Friday. We're going to start to see, as American companies evaluate the impact of these tariffs, they're either going to have two options. They're either going to have to pass on the prices in terms of the increased tariffs and increase the prices of their goods, or they're going to absorb some of this cost in order to keep the end prices to the consumers fairly reasonable. And if they do that, it's going to hurt their bottom line. So the profitability of those companies that are engaged in Chinese products are going to be lowered. And in terms of ultimately, a tax is going to be paid by the American consumer. So in terms of what's going to be under the tree this Christmas, I think American families can expect to see either less under that tree, or what they're going to buy for Christmas is going to be a lot more costly.
Donald Trump seems like the type of guy who doesn't all of a sudden say, oh, I made a mistake. He seems to dig his heels in. How long do you see this thing lasting? And what are the possible outcomes?
Well, there's a timing issue here. It's not an accident that we have a midterm election coming up. And some of the things of which Donald Trump describes in terms of his accusations about the imbalance of trade between the United States and China, some of these words actually are attractive to his base. And so by ratcheting up the dialogue and constantly reminding Americans that Xi Jinping's my friend, that's a very political statement. He's actually saying, yes, Xi Jinping's my friend, but at the same time, I can stick it to my friend, meaning I'm a strong leader and I can make very tough decisions.
I listened in on part of the phone call yesterday, senior administration officials briefing reporters on this $200 billion number. They also said, we want talks, we want to have talks, but is this a good way to induce talks by more threats, more tariffs?
Well, I think that's President Trump's negotiating style. I think he is basically taking a page out of the Machiavellian playbook. And what we learned from Niccolo Machiavelli is this: armed prophets succeed, unarmed prophets fail. So if he's going to go into a negotiation, he's going to make sure he is, quote unquote, armed, meaning he's going to act first, talk later.
Arthur Dong, always a pleasure. Thanks so much for your insights.
My pleasure, Michael.